Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and the NFL. I have a brand new video for you, ladies and gentlemen, but before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, never ever seen any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos, the only thing you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, to be a part of the DFS Zone community here is to become a subscriber. Make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure you turn on that post notification, that bell icon you see on the right-hand side of the subscribe button. Make sure you click on that, turn that on, so this way you don't miss out on any of my NBA or NFL lineup advice videos. With that being said, today is actually Christmas Eve. I'm doing a video the day before the actual games. As we all know, there is no NBA action on Christmas Eve, but we have a 5-game slate for tomorrow. And before I go over the slate, just want to wish everybody out there, all my viewers, all my subscribers, I greatly appreciate you guys all. I've made a lot of new friends. I've been able to interact with a number of you over the last several months. I've been doing this for about 8.5 months now, and it's been a heck of a ride. I've enjoyed every minute of it. Granted, it's been a little bit tough at times. It's a lot of work. Granted, I have a family and I have to take care of kids, and of course have a regular job and so on and so forth. So it's a bit of work, but at the same time, it's been gratifying. And again, it's all due to you guys being viewers. If nobody was viewing my videos, obviously I would have probably given up, 5 or 6 months ago. But considering that people have been viewing, people have been subscribing, that is just the most, that's what makes me happy. And of course, it keeps me motivated and excited to continue to come out here and try to give you the best possible advice every single day. So again, I want to wish all of you a Merry, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your day tomorrow watching the NBA, spending your time with your loved ones. It's a great time of year. It's one of the best times of year. And, of course, we will be back at it again on Wednesday. So let's go over the slate for tomorrow. 5-game slate in the association. And right away, first things first, let me go over yesterday. I like to review more or less where I stand. Yesterday, I gave you guys Mr. Fox at point guard. He had a pretty solid game, 44.7 fantasy points per game. Luka Doncic came through as shooting guard, 44.2. Had a big shot late there for the Dallas Mavericks. Kevin Durant just balled his butt off. I know some of you are like, you're hesitant to play some of these guys, but when they're playing that well and they're in favorable matchups, you got to take advantage of them. So Durant was one of those yesterday. He had a great game, 67.9 Fanduel points. Kyle Kuzma had a rough one, 24.2. And then I gave you Jared Allen, just to change it up. I did tell you that I was obviously interested in other players as well among these guys, but these are the 5 that I gave. So Jared Allen, 27.8, which is respectable for him. We weren't expecting him to have a huge game, but I wanted to take advantage of the factors that they were playing Phoenix. Brooklyn, again, playing very good basketball, won another game. Now all of a sudden it seems like the Brooklyn Nets are in contention to hopefully make a playoff run here this year, the way they've been playing. But Jared Allen, not a bad game. All right. Let's get to tomorrow's games, all right? So at point guard tomorrow, to be totally honest with you, there's a couple of guys that I have an interest in and that I will have some exposure. You got to have some exposure to Westbrook, but at the same time, a lot of studs are playing tomorrow. They're all big games. All of the games should be fairly competitive. But Russell Westbrook will be someone I'll have a little bit of exposure to, not a ton, but out of the guys in the top, I would have some exposure to him. I think another guy that's in a pretty good spot, Damian Lillard versus Utah, he's in a good spot there. Both guys against one another there. Ricky Rubio would be in a good spot there as well against Damian Lillard. Lillard is a better defender than Rubio, hands down, but Rubio seems to always play well against Portland. So Damian Lillard is definitely in play. I do like Kyrie Irving here against Philadelphia, not so much so. Not as much as I like Damian Lillard. I think Lillard is probably the best play up here other than Westbrook. But I'm going to come down to Eric Bledsoe because he's been torching my New York Knicks. As you guys know, if you've been following me long enough, I am a New York Knicks fan. I live in New York City. Eric Bledsoe has torn us apart, and I got to go against my Knickerbockers tomorrow and definitely recommend Eric Bledsoe because I will have a lot of exposure to him. He's coming in here 16 points, 4 rebounds, pretty much 6 assists, 32.9, 33 fantasy points per game at 7,300. You need 36 from him, folks. And on DK, 6,800, you need 34 fantasy points to meet value there. He's averaging 33. And as you can see here, pretty much 5 out of his last 7 games, he's pretty much at 29 plus. Let's go over to the crunch. And where's Mr. Bledsoe? Again, the numbers look a little choppy here. Granted, there are a couple of games that were a little bit, of a blowout, a couple of games competitively, a couple of games he didn't shoot very well and wasn't pretty much a part of the offense. But nonetheless, he's still getting the job done. Like I said, 5 out of 7 games at 29 plus. I could definitely accept that because that's close enough to his value. And on top of that, his minutes are there. He's playing easily 30-plus minutes per game. His usage rate is pretty much 22% on average. He's had 26 and 25 in some of the games sporadically. He's getting about maybe 11, 12 shots a game on average, maybe more like 12 shots per game on average. And, of course, he can shoot a couple of threes. He's not big as a three-point shooter, but as you can see, he's taking about 2 or 3 per game and getting maybe one of them to go down. He does get to the foul line time to time, and he can definitely shoot the free throw fairly well. He can get you some rebounds, get you some assists. Turns over the ball the last 2 games. You definitely don't want to see this. You want him to clean this up for tomorrow. He's had 8 turnovers in the last 2 games, but he has had also 2 steals. He could definitely defend a little bit and get you a couple of steals and the occasional block once in a while. His home and away splits have been pretty good on the road thus far this year. 47% shooting from the floor, 32% from 3, which is better than at home. And he's averaging 16 points per game and 31 fantasy points per game. He did play against New York already twice this year, and as you can see, he has tortured them. Both games. 47 and 47, so he's averaging about almost a 47 spot easily in those 2 games. And then last year, he basically had 2 42-plus games as well. So he's actually been putting 40 or better in 4 out of the last 5 games against New York. So he has had their number a little bit. Now, granted, he's got to deal with Mr. Moutier, who's pretty big, guard. But nonetheless, these 2 games, one of them actually were against Moutier, and that was the one here on December the 1st. He still put up 47. So again, I love the matchup. I love the factors that he's had great success against New York, and thus when you see that, you got to at least have some exposure to a player like that. New York coming in here 22nd in defending point guards, and they have been allowing as of late 32 fantasy points per game over the last 5 games, and they've given up to Trae Young 34, Ben Simmons 44, and Kemba Walker put up 51 on them. So again, Bledsoe, considering he's led up the New York Knicks, I will have to favor him. So we're gonna pencil in Mr. Bledsoe. Other guys that I'm considering, I'm actually considering Ricky Rubio. I already told you that I do plan to have some exposure to Damian Lillard in the same matchup against Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio also will be someone that I would consider a little bit too, 6,700. He in his last 2 games, as of recent, he has put up 39 and 46, and then in his last game against Portland, he put up a 39. So again, I kind of like those numbers, Mr. Rubio. So Rubio's in play. And then I come down here. I definitely like to give exposure also to Emmanuel Mudiay in that same matchup against Milwaukee. Mudiay coming in here, 6,400. Did put up a 42 spot against Milwaukee the last time out, as you can see, at 35 minutes, 28, 3, and 7, 42 fantasy points. So Mudiay, for me, is in play as well, someone that I'm considering. And those are the 2 guys that I like the most out of anything else here. Just to make the video quicker, we're going to go over the shooting guard. At shooting guard, you got Harden, you got Jimmy Butler at the top, Donovan Mitchell. I do like Donovan Mitchell a little bit in this matchup against Portland, so I may have some exposure to him. But I'm going to come down all the way to Klay Thompson. I love Klay Thompson in this matchup. He's had pretty good success against the Lakers as well. But he's coming in here, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 33 fantasy points per game, 7,400. You need about 37 folks for him to meet value. On DK, 6,700. Price tag is not that bad at all there. You only need really 30. Pretty much like 32, 33 from him there to meet value. And that's about his price. That's about his average. And as you can see here, pretty much 6 or 7 out of his last 8 or 9 games, he's been at 32 plus. And we know he has 50-point upside. Great GPP play, no doubt about it. Let's go over the shooting guard. And let's look at Mr. Klay Thompson. And as you can see, Klay, the minutes are going to be there. He's going to get minutes. He's been pretty solid as of late, 33 or plus over the last 5 games, 4 out of his last 5 games. And minutes are there, man. He's going to get 33 plus minutes. We know that. He's going to get usage. His usage is not extremely high as opposed to Durant, because he's like the 3rd go-to guy on this team. It's Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Then comes maybe Klay. But Klay is still getting enough usage here. As well. He's been averaging pretty much about, on the average, maybe 22, 23% usage rate, and then he's getting about, He's been a little low as of late. In the last few games, only 15 shots per game, but he's normally in that 17, 18 shots per game, and he takes about 5 or 6 threes on average. He can get to the free throw line. He shoots the ball well from there. When he gets on the line, he gives us some rebounds. He can get us some assists. And then, of course, he brings a little bit of defense. As of late, he's been playing really good defense. Look at all these steals. Pretty much 6 out of his last 7 games, he's had at least 1 or 2 steals or better, and he's had 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks over the last 4 games. So Klay Thompson playing very, very good basketball. His home and away splits thus far this year. At home, 45% field goal percentage, 36% from 3. He's averaging 21 points per game and 33 fantasy points per game. He's averaging 27+ versus Golden State. Against the Lakers over the last couple of games during the course of the last few games that he has played against them. All right. So I do like him here. And the other thing I like also is that he's going up against Josh Hart and KCP. And both of those guys have been having issues as of late. The Lakers are 30th in defending shooting guards this far and allowing, as of late, 39 fantasy points per game is one of the other reasons why I love Klay Thompson's matchup tomorrow. Mr. Hart and Mr. KCP have been giving up 31 to Garrett Temple, 44 to Drew Holiday, 30 to Joe Harris, and 78 to Mr. Harden, and 64 to DeRozan over the last 5 to 6 games. Those are some of the matchups they had. So I do like Klay here, who's a sharpshooter. Now, granted, he is more of a shooter than anything else, but if he starts knocking down shots, I mean, it's going to be a long, long day. So I definitely like Klay here in this matchup against the LA Lakers. We're going to pencil him in there. Other guys that you can consider here, Chris Middleton has played well against the Knicks. He could be someone to consider at $7,500 if you want to pay $100 more. I think he'll be fine. I also think Donovan Mitchell's a good spot. I'm not on Harden against OKC or Butler against Boston. Boston is definitely tough with almost everybody. But we come down here. You could take a stab at Tim Hardaway Jr. His price tag is down, which is good. So you get that discount, $6,600. With Timmy Hardaway there. He has put up a 28 and 34 in his last 2 meetings, but his last 2 meetings, 28 and a 34 against his team, which is pretty low, but he shot horribly. I mean, he took more than enough shots. You know, with Tim Hardaway, you're going to get usage, you're going to get time on the floor, and you're going to get a lot of shots. He's the main offensive weapon for the New York Knicks, and he just shot poorly in those 2 games. I mean, I can definitely show you that right here when I looked at it. Tim Hardaway Jr., and against Milwaukee, and as you can see, at 34 in the last game, he shot 8 of 22 and 3 of 8. He still got 21 points from the floor because of the massive amount of shots. But imagine if he would have hit at least 55% from the floor. Prior game, he put up a 29 spot, and he was 10 of 23 and 3 of 9. So again, shots were off in those games. He could be someone that you can definitely consider. Another guy that I'm considering, if you're coming down and paying down, you got to at least consider KCP versus Golden State. Golden State has some vulnerability. Golden State is 22nd in defending shooting guards, and they have given up 28+. Let's put it this way. He has put 28+ in 2 straight games versus Portland in his last 2 meetings. 27+ in 4 out of his last 5 games versus Golden State. KCP has put up good numbers at $3,800. That is not a bad price tag to get Mr. Caldwell Pope. All right. If you're not going to go Caldwell Pope, you could come down for $200 cheaper. You could try Kyle Korver. I think Korver versus Portland. Portland is 13th in defending shooting guards, and he has had 2 straight games where he's put up 28+ versus Portland. So he's had some success with Portland in his last 2 meetings. And then I also like Mr. Dotson for the Knicks, $3,800. If he gets his minutes up to about 20 or more in the matchup tomorrow, he could be someone that could be dangerous here. He is put up a 29 and a 31 against these guys against Milwaukee already this year. So he has had 2 fairly good games against Milwaukee already. So Damian Dotson is in play as well. All right, let's go over to small forward. As small forward, this was a tough one, man. After looking at everybody, I mean, I'm going to go with Giannis, so we're going to pencil him in there right now. But as you know, I've been all over Paul George, and I'm going to still ride Paul George. He will be on half of my lineups for certain tomorrow. I'm not going to put a whole lot of lineups, but he will be in 50% of them because he's just playing so well right now. Even though Houston is number 1 defending against small forwards, they haven't faced really a whole lot of Mr. Paul George kind of caliber or skill set players. So they're going to find themselves in a tough battle tomorrow, having to deal with 2 of them with Russell Westbrook and Mr. PG-13. But I'm going to, I'm going to go Giannis here because I haven't really gone to him much this year. This is only the second time I'm recommending him. I do love the matchup. He has tortured the Knicks as well, so you got to take advantage of those factors. He's coming in here, 26 points, pretty much 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 54 fantasy points per game. At 11,500, you need 57 to meet value, and on DK, he's 10,700. So you need about 53 there. He is averaging 54. And when I look at his game log, 6 out of his last pretty much 8 games, he's been at 50 plus, and we know he is 70 plus upside. We go over to the cruncher and Mr. Giannis right here at the top. Again, a little choppy, but again, I'm not concerned with that. I'm more intrigued with the factors that he has played well against the Knicks, and this is a favorable matchup for him. The Knicks have had some problems with dealing with Giannis, and not only that, he plays more than enough minutes. We know he's going to get the usage. His usage is up there, 31% or better. He's going to take about 15, 16 shots on average, maybe as much as 16, 17 shots. He'll shoot an occasional 3, but he's not a three-point shooter, so I'm not going to base this on his three-point shooting. But he is aggressive in getting to the boards and getting to the foul line, and he's done pretty well as far as getting to the foul line. His free throw shooting is not too bad, and then he brings the rebounding, he brings assists, and of course he's been really hampering a lot with turnovers as of late. Look at this, 4, 4, 6, 6. That is horrific for fantasy point totals. We don't really want to see him. He needs to clean this up a little bit tomorrow. But at the same time, he brings all the extra fantasy point totals that he can get us, and that's blocking and steals, and his specialty is blocking shots. My other concern with him going into tomorrow is the fact is that he has been in foul trouble in almost every game for the last 6 or 7 games. So hopefully he can clean that all up against New York. But when you think about it, his home and away splits, 57% field goal percentage on the road, 24 points per game on the road, and 53 fantasy points. He already has played New York twice this year, and as you can see, a 75 and a 58. So he has tortured them. Really, really bad. 2 games overall, 50% field goal percentage, 32 points per game, and averaging 68 fantasy points. And as you can see, he's had great success even dating up to last year. Every game was over 51 fantasy points last year as well. So he has had New York's number. Now, granted, he's there. On Fanduel, he's a small forward. He is also power forward eligible on DK, and he has been playing more the 4 with Chris Middleton playing the 3. And, of course, going up against the Knickerbockers, that means he's going to see more Mr. Vanderlei, while Kevin Knox is going to go up against Middleton. So I kind of like Knox in that battle with Middleton. I think he can definitely get it done there. And I do like Giannis here versus Vanderlei, even though Vanderlei is proven to be a pretty decent defender, but gets into foul trouble. So something's got to give. Hopefully it's not Giannis that gets into the foul trouble. But again, love Giannis here in this matchup against the Knickerbockers. So he's in there at power. As far as other plays here at small forward, of course, Durant, Paul George in play. Paul George versus Houston. Houston is first in defending small forwards, as you can see here in the cruncher. But I'm not even concerned about that, man. Paul George, they haven't seen anybody like Paul George. They've been allowing only 24 fantasy points per game to small forwards. But again, when I look at the game, when I look this all up as far as fantasy point totals, the only guy that they have faced in the last 12 games was LeBron James, and LeBron James on a poor shooting night put up 44 against them, and Paul George is going to be the second stud that they have faced in 13 games. So, Paul George should do fairly well here. And again, if it's not going to be George, it's going to be Russell that's going to have the big game. But Paul George has been proven as of late to be in a really, really good hot streak. He's playing very, very good basketball. So he is definitely someone you should consider for about $1,000 cheaper than the other guys. Other than that, you can consider Brandon Ingram. I think Ingram at $6,000 is pretty cheap, knowing that Golden State has a little bit of vulnerability there. And then I also like Joe Ingles here against Portland. He has done well against Portland. So I kind of like Joe Ingles there. Portland's coming in here 13th in defending small forwards, but as of late, they've been giving up 32 fantasy points per game to opposing small forwards. So I kind of like that. And he has already put up a 30 and a 33 against them this year. So Joe Ingles has had success against Portland thus far this year. So I like Joe Ingles as well. I will have some exposure to him. We're going to go to power forward now, ladies and gentlemen. We're wrapping up soon. At power forward, at the top, man, you got Draymond Green, which I gave you recently. His price tag has come up. He's playing a little bit better. I'm not high on Draymond Green tomorrow because he's going to go up against Kyle Kuzma. And I kind of like Kyle Kuzma and pay $500 less for Kyle Kuzma, who has pretty good upside. So Kyle Kuzma is someone that I will have some exposure to. But I'm going to come all the way down to and mention Kevin Knox here because, like I already mentioned, I do like the Knicks front court here as far as Vanderlei and Knox. But I guess for me, it's more Knox because he's going to play the 3. He's been starting as the 3. And he's going to go and battle Mr. Middleton, especially if Brogdon is playing. Now, if Brogdon is out, but even when Brogdon was out, they did have Tony Snell start as shooting guard. So I still like Middleton going up against Knox. So Knox coming in here, 11, 4, and pretty much 1 assist a game, 19 fantasy points, 6,300. You need 31, 32 pretty much to meet value here on Fanduel. On DK's 5,600. You only need about 26 to meet value there. So he's definitely a nice play on DraftKings. For the amount of minutes he's playing and the amount of scoring he's been doing and the amount of usage and shots, I mean, he is definitely someone that you got to consider. He's had 7 straight games at 20-plus average. 20-plus. So he is definitely trending slightly upward each game thus far here in the season. And we come as far as fantasy point totals. We come over here to the cruncher. And as you can see, a lot of green, a little stagnant here, but nonetheless, still, we're looking at minutes. We're looking at usage. His usage rate is at about 23, pretty much 22, 23% on average. He's taking about 15 to 16 shots on average per game. The minutes are there over, as you can see, his minutes have been over 33 minutes for, easily 33 minutes or better, as high as 41 minutes over the last 6-7 games. And he's able to get some threes. He's taking 6 or 7 threes a game and burying about half of them. So he's shooting almost 50% from three-point range, and he brings the free throw shooting. He's been pretty good there as well. And he gets you some rebounds, and he's going to be able to get you a couple steals here and there in the occasional block. Pretty good so far as of late of staying out of foul trouble. I mean, he's not solid young rookie player for the New York Knicks. Going up, and like I said already, he has played Milwaukee one time, already put up a 41 spot earlier. This was a shootout game, as you can see here, 136-134. He did take 20 shots. Again, I love the matchup. I love the idea of him going up against Middleton. Milwaukee coming up. First things first, his home and away splits. 38% shooting at home is pretty low for him, but he is shooting pretty good from 3, 33%. He's averaging 12 points and 21 fantasy points per game at home. And again, like I told you, he put up a 42 spot already against Milwaukee in one game. In that game, he shot 45%, took 20 shots, hit 9 of 20, and he had 42% from 3, shot 12 threes and hit 5 of them for 26 floor points. But again, Milwaukee 26 in defending power forwards. And have been giving up 31 fantasy points per game over the course of the last 5 games to opposing power forwards. And some of the guys that they have faced, James Johnson in the last game put up 33, 40 by Blake Griffin a couple of games back, and then Thaddeus Young put up 60 against them. So again, I do like Mr. Knox here, who brings a little bit of perimeter shooting, 3-point shooting, and attacking the basket as well and getting rebounds. I definitely like Mr. Knox here. So Kevin Knox in there. Then we got here other possible plays. I did mention I do plan to have some exposure to Kyle Kuzma. Another guy that stands out is P.J. Tucker with the amount of minutes he gets, 5,300, and OKC is 18th in defending power forwards thus far this year. But they have been allowing 39 fantasy points per game to opposing power forwards as of late in the last 5 games. So I love the idea of P.J. Tucker possibly having a decent game here. With the amount of minutes he's been playing, 34 plus over the last 7 games. And as you can see, he's put up 230, 32, and a 34 spot in 2 out of the last 3 games. So Tucker's starting to bury some shots as well. With Chris Paul out, he's getting a little bit more time on the floor. So he is someone that definitely you must have some consideration here as well. And as you can see, 3 straight games at 26 plus. So PJ Tucker is someone that I will have some exposure to as well. We go to center. As center, man, hands down, Embiid is in play. I will have a little exposure to him at 10,003 going up against Boston. Boston's coming in here giving up 35 fantasy points per game to opposing centers, so I definitely like the matchup. Then you got here, coming down, Gobert and Nurkic have been battling each other, and Nurkic is $500 cheaper, so I do like Nurkic here. I'm going to add him to the screen. I do like Nurkic here in this matchup. He's had better success. I think he is a better defender than Gobert. He's definitely top 5 in the league, at least for me, from when I watch him play. Granted, he doesn't play tons of minutes, but when he does play, he is about 1.1 fantasy point per minute kind of player, so I definitely love that. He definitely makes good use of his time on the court. You see, he's coming in here, 14 points, 10 rebounds, pretty much 3 assists a game, 35 fantasy points, 8,100, you need 40. On DK, he's only 6,100. You only need 30 fantasy points from him. That is a steal. on DK. He is priced a little too cheap on DK. So you DK players, I do play on DK, not as often, but he is definitely someone you got to consider. So Nurkic in here, love him. Let's go over to the cruncher, break him down a little bit more. And Mr. Nurkic, granted, look how he's looked. 36 or better in 4 out of the last 5 games. The minutes, 27 and 29 over the last 2, but pretty much on average, he's about maybe 20, I would say about 25 to 26 minutes on average he has a game. His usage rate has been down the last 2 games, but nonetheless, he is usually in the 22 to 23% range, and his shots have been down as well, but he is capable of getting 10, maybe about 11 shots on average per game, and he gets you the rebounds, which we all love. Gets you a lot of offensive rebounds, which I definitely love. And he does bring some assists for a big man, and he is a good defender. He can get you steals and blocks. He's had 4 blocks in the last 2 games, and look at this. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. 5, pretty much almost 9 steals over the course of the last 6 games. So pretty much averaging about 1 steal a game, and he could get you double-digit scoring. So I do love Nurkic here in this matchup. He's 48% field goal percentage away from home, 73% from the foul line, 14 points per game, 34 fantasy points per game, and he already has played against Utah 1 time this year, 2 times this year in the 2 games. As you can see, he put up a 36 and a 48. This game here was looks like it was a preseason game. 10-7 is definitely not the season. This was recently 36. And then look at the success. 2 games last year, over 40 with a 40 and a 45 spot. So I definitely like Mr. Nurkic here. Other than Jusuf Nurkic, the only other guys, listen, Cantor would be a nice play, but Cantor's going to play against Brook Lopez. We all know Brook Lopez doesn't like to bang under the boards. Brook Lopez is more of a perimeter shooting center and a 3-point shooting specialist center, you can say, because he's probably one of the best 3-point shooting centers in the league. He doesn't bang a whole lot. He probably gets only about 3 or 4 rebounds a game. That is going to draw Mr. Cantor away. He did play already against Milwaukee, only put up like 16, 17 fantasy points, if I remember correctly. So not a good game for him, and it was all due to all of that. On top of that, he got a little bit in foul trouble. But again, Mr. Cantor could be a very nice possible play here if he plays more than enough minutes and if he's able to get himself to get a ton of rebounds, where it's an opportunity for him to do that. But a little risky for me. 6,200. I'll be more than happy to pay 5,300 and take a shot on Brook Lopez. That'll be definitely something that will be totally different. But you also got to consider, other than Cantor and Brook Lopez, if you're paying all the way down, you got to keep Zubac. For the Lakers, started 2 games in a row. These guys are still hurt. Mr. JaVale McGee and Tyson Chandler. So Zubac has played the last 2 games, and he's been absolutely just like showing the Lakers that, hey, you know what? I think I should be your center. 32 games straight, 32 minutes. He had a double-double here in the first time out, 16 and 11. He had 19 and 4 last night. 36 and 40 fantasy points. I had him in my lineups last night. Didn't have him the first time out, but you got to take advantage of him. His price tag has not budged. He's still at minimum value, 3,500. So you can open up the doors to lock in here 2 to easily maybe even 3 studs here, or at least maybe 2 top studs and 1 mid-level stud in this lineup tomorrow if you're making one lineup, and put then Zubac. So Zubac is in play. He's definitely in play for 3,500. You must take advantage of that price tag as well. And that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I wish you guys all a Merry Christmas. I appreciate all of you for what you guys have done for me over the last 8 months, viewing my videos, commenting, subscribing, dropping likes, even sharing my Twitters and my other videos with other people. I greatly appreciate all of you. I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. Enjoy your day with your families. Enjoy the NBA games. And also at the same time, let's hope we all make a ton of money as well. And I'll see you guys Wednesday for Wednesday Slate.